Representative Suzanne Dugan, Mr. Wayne Hull, Country Manager, Flo, Dr. Idelia Ferdinand, Senior Education Officer, Ministry of Education, National Reconciliation and Information, other government officials, Lion Cornelia Moses, President of the Lions Club St. Vincent South, other distinguished Lions and Leos, principals and teachers, judges, the media, listeners and viewers, ladies and gentlemen, fellow students, good night. I am Lion Monel Marksman, your moderator for tonight's competition. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the Lions Club St. Vincent South and on my own behalf to welcome everyone present to the finals of the Lions Club St. Vincent South floor-sponsored National Secondary Schools Public Speaking Competition. I must also welcome those persons who are listening and viewing via Nice Radio, WeFM, VC3 Facebook page, and SVG TV. I would like to take this opportunity to thank those students, teachers, principals, parents, and guardians who undertook the challenge to participate in this year's competition in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. We all have readjusted to certain protocols and guidelines as seen on entry. I must acknowledge nurses Ronique Samuel and Lexi Selman tonight. We as a club had our doubts that this year's 2020 competition would have taken place. Yet we are here tonight, ready and eagerly, waiting to see who will be judged this year's winner. The finalists will receive a smartphone along with data from our sponsor Flo. The winner would receive a smartphone Galaxy S20. In addition to the Lion Michael DeFreitas Challenge Trophy, the winning school will receive funding of $3,000 for a school project of their choice. For the 5th year, Flo will provide a 2-year scholarship to the top 3 participants, with the first place receiving $2,000 each year, the second place $1,000 each year, and the third place $500 each year at a tertiary level. With that being said, I would now introduce to you the finalists for tonight's competition. The students, in order of appearance, are, could we all stand to welcome them? Marika Batiste of the St. Vincent Girls High School. Aria Jardine, representing the Mountain View Adventist Academy. Kanali Teixeira of the Georgetown Secondary School. Representing the St. Vincent Grammar School, Stanislaus Gomes. And we have Gia Gloucester of the Union Island Secondary School. Thanks to Constable Woodley of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force Band for executing that great fanfare. You will have noticed that we are down to 5 finalists, as the representative from the St. Joseph Convent, Marika, decided to opt out of the competition. Kindly remain standing as we look to the Lord in prayer, as we invite Reverend Adolph Davis, the Superintendent Minister of the KINGSTOWN Chateaubelair Circuit of the Methodist Church, to do the invocation.
Let us pray. Gracious God and Heavenly Father, we give you thanks and praise for today. What a wonderful day it is when we celebrate your genius in creating us. Today we remember that in the beginning you spoke and life was created. We are mindful, O God, that you have demonstrated and created us with power in the Word. We thank you that tonight as we are a part of this activity celebrating the gift and ability of speaking and speech, celebrating the power of the Word, we pray that you will give confidence and wisdom and guidance and direction so that this evening's activity will bring you honor and glory. We pray for the judges and the participants and all who have contributed to making this afternoon a special one, this evening a special one. We pray, O God, that it will go well, in decency and in order, And at the end of the day, it would be a celebration of the creative genius and gifts that God has blessed us with. In Jesus' name we pray with thanksgiving. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Davis. Kindly remain standing for the national anthem of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Have your seats. As we look to our programs, we would welcome remarks by the President of the Lions Club St. Vincent South, Lion Cornelia Moses.
Madam Chairperson, Her Excellency the Governor General, Dame Susan Duggan, Mr. Wayne Hull, Country Manager of FLO, Dr. Idalia Ferdinand, Senior Education Officer in the Ministry of Education, National Reconciliation and Information, other government officials, other distinguished Lions and Leos, principals and teachers, judges, the media, listeners and viewers, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I greet you very warmly on behalf of the Board of Directors and members of the Lions Club St. Vincent South, as well as on my own behalf. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Lions Club St. Vincent South Secondary School's Public Speaking Finals. This activity is held in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, National Reconciliation and Information. And it is sponsored by FLO, formerly Lime, and Cable and Wireless. Permit me to say how greatly honored we are to have Her Excellency, the Governor General of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dame Susan Duggan, in our presence. Dame Susan Duggan herself is quite familiar with this competition, having served as Chief Education Officer. As well, we are pleased to have Dr. Idalia Ferdinand and Mr. Wayne Hull, General Manager of FLO, sponsors of the competition, present in our audience. We are also pleased to have Reverend Adolph Davis, Superintendent Minister of the Methodist Church, present with us. A special welcome to all our audience who are viewing on television and our listening audience. As you can see, for this year's finals, the number of persons in attendance has been reduced significantly. This is because participating schools were asked to limit the number of supporters in keeping with the stipulations of the COVID-19 for indoor mass gathering protocols as issued by our local health authority. We wish to thank the participating schools as well as the general public for their understanding and cooperation. I must say that at the end of June, when our club was in the process of developing our work plan, we were uncertain as to whether we would have been able to host the competition in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. We were also cognizant that the Ministry of Education would have had to refocus its energies to adapt to the existing situation. However, when we approached Mrs. Elizabeth Walker, Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education, to hold discussion on the way forward, Mrs. Walker gave the ministry's commitment in ensuring that the competition takes place this year as it was included in the school's calendar of activities. Similarly, when we approached FLO as sponsors, the management committed to partner with us again. We are very appreciative of the long-standing partnership arrangement which our club has with the Ministry of Education and FLO. The annual secondary schools public speaking competition is one of the club's flagship projects. It is designed to develop the communication skills of students and to raise awareness among young people on national issues. A total of 13 schools participated in the preliminaries, which took place from September 29th to October 2nd, 2020. 6 schools were selected for the finals. Unfortunately, 1 withdrew. This evening, we are pleased to have our 5 finalists representing their various schools. We look forward to interesting debates. The world is currently plagued by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has changed the way we live, work, learn, and serve. Notwithstanding, the Lions Club St. Vincent South will continue its distinguished tradition of service to its communities. Permit me just to mention a few of the other projects which we plan to execute for the club's Lionistic year, July 20th to June 2021. July 2020 to June 2021. These include collaborating with stakeholders to construct a home for a physically challenged resident in our community of Enhams, engaging in coastal cleanup, tree planting exercise, facilitating a sustainable farmers empowerment project, providing food packages to the needy, and partnering with stakeholders on cancer and diabetes awareness. Lions Club St. Vincent South is a non-profit organization which exists to serve its communities. Communities depend on service clubs, and we will continue to support and strengthen them as we have done in the past. On behalf of the members of the club, I wish to thank all of our corporate partners who continue to collaborate with us in our various initiatives. In closing, let me again say how pleased we are to have all of you to join here with us this evening. Our best wishes to the finalists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lion President. We now welcome Mr. Wayne Hull, the country manager for FLO, to give us his remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Her Excellency Governor General Dame Susan Duggan, Reverend Adolph Davis, the President of the Lions Club South, Lion Cornelia Moses, Executive and other members of the Lions Club South, Senior Education Officer Dr. Idalia Ferdinand, judges, members of the press, our finalists here tonight, members of the audience who are here in the room with us today, and those who are viewing us on the various platforms via the internet, radio, and television. A pleasant good night to all. I am eternally pleased that FLOW can partner with the Lions Club South to successfully organize another public speaking competition. Our corporate sponsorship to this national event has been unbroken for over 30 plus years. The COVID-19 pandemic has been nothing short of challenging for all businesses across every industry. 2020 has been unprecedented, and we are still not clear when we would get back to normal. To survive this pandemic, we all had to take immediate actions and innovative measures so that we can protect lives and livelihood. FLOW, just like any other company, had to navigate this crisis to ensure that we look at the challenges that we face so that we can remain successful. As an essential service provider and a key corporate contributor to the national development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we see that our role is even more vital to ensure that events such as this public speaking competition can occur annually. This competition, in our view, is a valuable tool for the development of a mastery in communication and debate for the student population in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Across every spectrum of life, and I would say across every professional career, having a fluent ability to project your views and messages to your audience is a critical factor in your success. And this skill would be your differentiator as you seek to take on opportunities throughout your entire life. We at FLOW, we take education very seriously. So apart from investing in this competition and in response to the COVID-19 crisis, our company invested millions of dollars in this year to ensure students across all of the islands that we operate had access to our FLOW Study app. This application was a vital tool in the response to the remote learning initiative that occurred throughout the Caribbean region. Students used the platform to gain access to course content, instructions from teachers, quizzes, and past papers as they prepared for the various regional examinations. On the local front, we also support other initiatives such as the Ministry of Education annual prize giving ceremony, the WFM annual school reading competition, the National Firms public speaking competition, and we also offer tertiary education scholarship and also scholarship to secondary school to our employees and to our customers across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I will also like to say that on our own initiative for employees of FLOW, we launched in December of 2019 the FLOW Toastmasters Club. So I encourage the Ministry of Education to continue supporting these public speaking initiatives within their schools and at every level. And I look forward to the next 30 plus years of this public speaking competition organized by the Lions Club South. I know what FLOW has been contributing to this event tonight has been announced, but I want to reinforce it again. We would make a direct monetary donation to the Lions Club South. We'll offer prizes of smartphones and data plans to the 5 finalists. And a change tonight, we'll give to the winner a new Samsung Galaxy S20 smartphone. So that's a fantastic prize for you tonight. And I hope it gives you some encouragement. We also would offer 2-year scholarships to the community college for the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place finalists. And we'll also give to the winning school a $3,000 prize for a special project. Our total investment in this event and the other national education initiatives that we sponsor takes an annual budget of just over 100,000 EC dollars. This is a clear indication of FLOW's commitment to this event and to the development of people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, even in these challenging times. So I look forward to the vibrant debate from our 5 finalists here tonight, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you, and do have yourself a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Hull. I would now like to welcome Dr. Idelia Ferdinand, the Senior Education Officer from the Ministry of Education, National Reconciliation, Ecclesiastical Affairs and Information.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Your Excellency, the Governor General of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dame Susan Duggan, Mr. Wayne Hull, Country Manager, Flo, other government officials, Lion Cornelius Moses, President of the Lions Club, other executive and distinguished Lions and Leos, principals and teachers, judges, the media, listeners and viewers, ladies and gentlemen, finalists, students, good night to all. I bring you greetings on behalf of the Ministry of Education. We would like to commend the Lions Club South for continuing to expose our students to the art of public speaking. Thanks to all the principals and teachers who ensured their schools were represented in the preliminary rounds and tonight, especially at this time when they are dealing with various complexities posed by COVID-19, dengue, and so many other challenges. We would like to also congratulate all the students for taking up the challenge both in the preliminaries and the finals. To you who are here tonight, the finalists, we know you have prepared well and you are expecting to win, and by right, you are all winners. So whether you are selected in the top position tonight, consider yourself winners and see this opportunity as one that will propel you to even greater things. I look forward keenly to your presentations. All the best to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ferdinand. I would now give you the overview of the competition. Each speaker shall deliver 3 speeches, 2 prepared speeches and an impromptu speech. For the main speech, each finalist shall speak for a period not exceeding 10 minutes. For the students' prepared speech, each speaker shall speak for a period not exceeding 5 minutes. For the impromptu speech, each speaker shall have 1 minute to consider the topic and no more than 2 minutes to present his or her topic. Any speaker who utilizes less than 8 minutes of the allocated time for the main prepared speech shall have 5 points deducted from his or her total score. Participants could refer to the prepared notes from which they can make their presentation. For the main speech, participants not engaged in delivering their speeches shall be absent from the room at the time of the speech, at the time the speech is being delivered, unless he or she has already delivered theirs. I'll now give you the instructions for the ringing of the bell regarding the timekeepers. The first bell would ring when participants take the podium and is ready to present. The second bell is at 8 minutes. The third bell and final bell is at 10 minutes. For the students' prepared speech, the first bell would ring when the participant takes the podium and is present. The second bell at 4 minutes, the third and final bell at 5 minutes. For the impromptu speech, the first bell would ring when participants take the podium after selecting his or her topic. The second bell at the end of 1 minute, the third and final bell at the end of the 3rd minute. I would now introduce to you our judges tonight. However, first I will introduce to you our timekeepers, who are Lions Janiel George and Lion Sharon Williams. Introduction of the judges. Judge number 1, we have Kimberly Cambridge. Kimberly Cambridge is a 2015 Fulbright Scholar and a past UWI Open Scholarship recipient. She is a licensed and certified rehabilitation counselor and has a master's in rehabilitation counseling and therapy from the Southern Illinois University of Carbondale. She also holds a bachelor's in special psychology from the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill. Currently, she is one of the two psychologists on staff at the Milton Cater Memorial Hospital and works predominantly with children with autism and other neurological disorders, as well as conduct disorders. She conducts 2 clinics, one for children with speech and language disorders, and the other for children with behavioral disorders. She enjoys reading, writing occasionally, and teaches English to children in her spare time. Ladies and gentlemen, Judge number 1, Kimberly Cambridge. Lauren McIntosh. Lauren McIntosh is an attorney at law and notary public. She graduated on the Principal's Honor Roll from Hugh Wooden Law School in Trinidad and Tobago in 2010. Her Bachelor's of Law degree was completed at Cave Hill UWI, where she graduated with upper second-class honors. Ms. McIntosh also holds a Bachelor of Arts in International Economics and Finance from Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada. In the early stages of her career, Ms. McIntosh completed internship at the United Nations Industrial Development Organization in Austria, the International Financial Services Authority, and the Ministry of Legal Affairs Attorney General Chambers. Following this, she spent 7 years at the reputable law firm Chancery Chambers in Barbados, where her key focus areas included company law, corporate restructuring, and international business. Ms. McIntosh is an associate member of the International Chartered Secretaries and Administrators Association. She also completed her diploma in International Trust Management, where she acquired her Trust and Estate Management designation. In 2018, Ms. McIntosh returned home to St. Vincent to take up the role of Executive Director of World Pediatric Project, where she is actively involved in providing children in St. Vincent and the Grenadines across the Caribbean with surgical and diagnostic tertiary critical health care. Judge number 2, Lauren McIntosh. Mr. Terrell Mapp is presently the Chief Operating Officer of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority, a government agency responsible for regulating the medicinal cannabis industry. Prior to this, Mr. Mapp worked in the Central Planning Division of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning as an economist. In his capacity, Terrell garnered a wealth of knowledge on local, regional, and international developments and how these impact the socio-economic fabric of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Mr. Mapp holds a master's degree in economics from Carleton University, Canada, and a first-class honors in economics and accounting from the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill. He has also received practical training in economic research, having done an internship at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank in St. Kitts. Judge number 3, Mr. Terrell Mapp. Judge number 4, Ms. Teresa Daniel, is a media and communications expert with close to 40 years' experience working at the international, regional, and national levels. In recent times, she has added communication consultant to the Medicinal Cannabis Authority and the local COVID-19 task force to her resume. She's the current host of the popular Round Table Talk program on VC3. Ms. Daniel is also a former member of the Lions Club St. Vincent South and long-standing judge of this public speaking. Judge number 4, Ms. Teresa Daniel. Judge number 5, Mr. Carl Brown. He has been a lifelong public health professional and a career national and regional public servant. He is a former executive director of the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV and AIDS, based at the CARICOM Secretariat in Guyana, and a former permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Communication and Works here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Currently, Mr. Brown is engaged as an independent international public health consultant. In this capacity, he has undertaken assignments in most CARICOM member states, as well as in African countries of Liberia, Botswana, Uganda, and Nigeria. Mr. Brown holds a master's degree in health planning and management from Boston University, USA, a diploma in health education from UWI, Mona, and a diploma in public health from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Mr. Brown has been the recipient of many national and regional awards for his contribution to the field of public health. These awards, including the Pan American Health Organization National Public Health Hero Award and the CARICOM Award of Distinction. Ladies and gentlemen, Judge number 5, Mr. Carl Brown. The criteria that the judges will be looking for with the main topic are material, manner, language, and voice, all totaling 50 points. We have Lion Stephen Seymour and Auditor Mr. Cyprian Isaacs from BMO who will be working along with the judges tonight so that we get a speedily results. So we have now come to the part of the competition that we have all been waiting for. Tonight's topic: politicians across the world are using COVID-19 pandemic to their advantage, whilst medical officials are at their wits' end trying to gain their voice. Without further delay, let's get this competition started. At this point, I'll ask Lion Suzette May to escort the participants out of hearing range, except for Miss Batiste, who would be our first competitor. So, representing the St. Vincent Girls High School, Miss Marika Batiste.
Madam Chairperson, Your Excellency the Governor General, Dame Susan Duggan, Mr. Wayne Hall, Country Manager Flo, Dr. Idalia Ferdinand, Senior Education Officer, Ministry of Education, National Reconciliation and Information, other government officials, Lion Cornelia Moses, President Lions Club, St. Vincent South, other distinguished Lions and Leos, principals and teachers, judges, the media, listeners and viewers, ladies and gentlemen, fellow students, good evening. German physician turned politician Rudolf Virchow states, in medicine on a larger scale, and I quote, whereas the medical doctor has an ethical obligation to improve the health of individuals, the politician has an ethical obligation to improve the health of the state and society. End of quotation. His view of the politician goes beyond partisan politics to any person involved in the decision-making in organizations and systems, resulting in policies that improve the quality of life. Fear and anxiety have led to unprecedented policy-making, with nations implementing measures to prevent and contain the spread of a novel coronavirus, which surfaced late December 2019 in the Chinese province of Wuhan. To date, 188 nations have been affected with over 41 million infections and over 1 million deaths recorded. As a result, the astuteness of the doctor and politician has come under heavy scrutiny, whilst both are struggling to create policies that will maintain productivity, economic stability, and humanity. Thus, ladies and gentlemen, given these extraordinary circumstances outlined, I cannot holistically agree or disagree with the topic. Instead, I would examine instances where politicians and doctors have or have not used their position and voice to engage in the best global, national, or social politics. Firstly, the World Health Organization, a body of politicians and medical experts, was ironically more concerned with politicking than preserving global health. Investigations by BBC editor Carrie Gracie proves medical personnel and politicians in China colluded to delay reporting the initial COVID-19 outbreak and evidence of human-to-human transmission. Her article titled, Coronavirus Kills Chinese Whistleblower Doctor, recounts in late December, Wuhan police forced Dr. Li and 8 others to sign legal documents retracting their false claims of an unconfirmed deadly SARS outbreak in China. Furthermore, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros disregarded their observations and instead accepted and spread false coronavirus propaganda. By the time the Chinese government was ready to admit, the virus had already spread to 114 countries. By contrast, Taiwan's Vice President Dr. Shen, an epidemiologist turned politician, keenly observed these medical reports and implemented 124 COVID protection policies, which prevented a major outbreak. Despite their proximity to China and a population of over 23 million, Taiwan currently records only 535 cases and 7 deaths. Moreover, the WHO continues to join China and play politics, overlooking possible global health benefits by failing to recognize the island nation as an independent state, fearing the loss of China's annual $57 million funding. Ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that despite the attempts of medical professionals, despite attempts by medical experts to be heard, it was not only politicians but also fellow medical professionals that were duplicitous in their ethical responsibilities and used the pandemic to their advantage. Secondly, politicians have used times of crisis to position themselves as caretakers to the suffering masses, as seen where politicians sought and gained sweeping powers, supposedly to combat COVID, but rarely to further entrench themselves. According to reports by Al Jazeera's Madeleine Roach, the law passed by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban indefinitely extends their state of emergency, suspends parliament, and introduces jail terms for intentionally spreading misinformation that hinders the government's pandemic response. Many fear this law restricts media freedom in favor of the government. Hungary presents an extreme case of abuse of power under the guise of concern for the country and COVID. Yet, evidence of a more subtle manipulation of the democratic process is observed closer to home. An article titled "Elections in the Time of COVID" listed how countries have conducted their pandemic elections. Sinki's 6-month state of emergency gave the ruling party an unfair advantage as they moved about freely during curfews and, unlike the opposition, were able to campaign. On the other hand, social media showcased how Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago conducted campaigning as usual, with rallies, motorcades, and no strict adherence to COVID prevention protocols. But their infection rate spiked post-election. Research by Lindsay Maitland depicts that Jamaica and Trinidad are not exclusive, as countries worldwide that have held their elections, as usual, have also recorded a post-elections increase in COVID cases. Whether the health concerns for the people are genuine or are being used for political advantage is a conundrum. Lastly, in this technological age, the easy spread of misinformation, often linked to a political agenda, can cause loss of lives, as without the accurate information, the virus will thrive. CBS's 60 Minutes program with Bob Woodward, dated September 13th, accused President Donald Trump of mishandling COVID-19 in the USA, as Trump admitted knowing the severity of the virus as early as January, but chose to stay silent for fear of causing panic and economic downturn. Trump's public disdain for WHO protocols, despite being cautioned by immunologist Dr. Anthony Fauci, placed his country at the epicenter of the pandemic, with 838 million infections, including Trump himself, and 222,000 deaths to date. Shockingly, the president has further endangered lives by touting the use of anti-malaria drug hydroxychloroquine and disinfectants as a possible treatment. So much so, to counter misinformation, many medical professionals in the USA have taken to their own private social media to push factual information that disproves the spurious claims of those blinded by partisan politics. These life-saving efforts were bolstered by features implemented by numerous social media sites to promote credible medical and scientific data. Moreover, whistleblower Dr. Rick Bright is one of many medical personnel who has relinquished prominent political position since the COVID-19 outbreak to expose conspiracies of how nepotism and capitalism are negatively affecting global health. Therefore, the issue in the USA is not one where medical professionals do not have a voice, but rather partisan politics influencing a few to disregard ethics and act on political advantage instead of their Hippocratic oath to place their patients' well-being first. Ladies and gentlemen, here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, despite the public push for the closing of borders and lockdown, the chief medical officer mandated instead stricter control measures at ports, quarantining of persons from high-risk countries, and testing asymptomatic persons, which enabled our effective control of the virus. To date, we have recorded 0 deaths, 0 hospitalizations, and no community spread, unlike other Caribbean countries. In conclusion, Michael Leavitt, former U.S. Health Secretary, stated, and I quote, "Everything we do before a pandemic will seem alarmist. Everything we do after will seem inadequate." End of quotation. It is clear that some politicians worldwide are indeed using the COVID-19 pandemic to their advantage. However, medical authorities are also guilty of doing the same. In instances where science, transparency, and political uprightness was employed, we have witnessed proper containment of the virus. Therefore, the only defense against COVID is politicians and doctors selflessly using their power and their voice to the advantage of the human race. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Batiste. Ms. Batiste spoke for 9 minutes, 11 seconds. Representing the Mountain View Adventist Academy, please welcome Ariana Jardine. Please welcome Ms. Jardine.
Madam Chairperson, Her Excellency Governor General Dame Susan Duggan, Mr. Wayne Hall, Country Manager, Flo, Dr. Idalia Ferdinand, Senior Education Officer, Ministry of Education, National Reconciliation and Information, other government officials, Lion Cornelia Moses, President Lions Club St. Vincent South, other distinguished Lions and Leos, principals and teachers, judges, the media, listeners and viewers, ladies and gentlemen, fellow students, good night. The topic before us tonight is, and I quote, "Politicians across the world are using COVID-19 to their advantage, whilst medical officials are at their wits' end trying to gain their voice." End quote. Chairperson, COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. The outbreak started in December 2019 in Wuhan, China, but went full swing in early February of this year, and was officially declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization in March of 2020. What makes COVID-19 so dangerous is that it is a virus that has never been seen before in humans, so absolutely no one is immune to it. That, added to the fact that it spreads very easily from person to person, just like influenza, infecting the upper respiratory system. To date, over 41 million persons have been infected, and over 1.1 million persons have lost their lives as a result of the COVID-19 infection. Before proceeding, Chairperson, it is very important that I define 3 of the key terms in this topic to bring clarity and understanding to the issue before us. Advantage, according to the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, means, and I quote, benefit resulting from some course of action, end quote. Wit's end is defined in the Cambridge Dictionary as, and I quote, to be so worried, confused, or annoyed that you do not know what to do next. Finally, the expression gain their voice in this context implies that the medical experts are not getting the attention, hearing, or response they reasonably should have in a scenario of this nature. Furthermore, the conjunction whilst, which carries the same meaning as whereas, implies that not only are politicians using the pandemic for their benefits, but they are also doing so at the expense of possible effective medical interventions. The question we must therefore address, Chairperson, are, firstly, are politicians across the world using the COVID-19 pandemic for their benefits? Secondly, are they taking advantage at the expense of the medical professionals being able to reasonably play their part? And thirdly, are the medical professionals being listened to? Chairperson, effective leaders are always seeking for ways to turn around any negative situation so that it will have, or at least will appear to the public to have, a favorable outcome, which in turn would definitely benefit their cause. This fact is more applicable to political than any other kind of leaders. COVID-19 has created for all of us a very negative situation. I do not believe, Chairperson, that there is anyone listening to this presentation who would have any doubt that politicians right across the globe are definitely using the COVID-19 pandemic to gain political mileage. And let's be very honest and real about it. Which serious politician wouldn't? As a matter of fact, I would be very disappointed with any political leader who doesn't. Don't get me wrong. I am in no way suggesting that politicians should seek for political advantage at the detriment or expense of other individuals. That is morally unacceptable, and I shall be addressing that matter shortly. Chairperson, my research has revealed to me that the way the pandemic was handled has resulted in a rise in approval ratings from many governments across the world. In Italy, for example, the government approval ratings went up by 27%. The same thing happened in Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. In the United States, New York's governor had a whopping 55-point increase in his approval rating. The governors of North Carolina and Michigan also had a high increase in their ratings. It seems very evident to me that many politicians managed to not only survive, but actually to thrive as a result of this pandemic. Had the current political climate in St. Vincent and the Grenadines not been so charged at this time, I would have at least shared my opinion on how our government has handled the pandemic. But I won't want to be misunderstood as supporting one political party or another. Chairperson, in some instances, I believe that the advantages taken by politicians was unfair. Let me clarify. According to Reporters Without Borders, of the 84 countries which declared a state of emergency in response to the pandemic, 38 of them have restricted freedom of the press. I can safely bet that these governments were just happy that they had the pandemic to justify an action they always wish to carry out. Other countries have banned mass protests, some have postponed elections, while others have called snap elections, not giving the opposition enough time to effectively campaign. Another sinister issue which surfaced during the pandemic is a need for contact tracing, resulting in many countries unveiling large-scale surveillance programs. Many citizens are only now aware that the government at any time can invade their privacy at will. That is scary. These are just a few examples of politicians using the COVID-19 pandemic in unfair ways to their advantage. There is, though, what we may consider fair or sensible advantage that many politicians have taken. For instance, many governments have handed out stimulus packages, relief and unemployment payments, similar to those given out by our government in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and other Caribbean countries. This, yes, would no doubt work in the favor of the government. It is taking advantage, but I think it is also a very sensible thing for any government to do. So, in big ways and small ways, I think that it is safe to conclude that politicians across the world have used and are using the COVID-19 pandemic to their advantage. But what of the medical officials? Are they at their wits' end trying to find their voice? Chairperson, the reality facing us shows that whilst politicians are making the political maneuvers, whether fair or unfair, millions have become infected and hundreds of thousands have died, and thousands more are still becoming infected and dying daily. To date, after 10 months, there is no clear indication that the end of this pandemic or cure for it is in sight. Is this because political leaders are ignoring the voice of the medical experts? Chairperson, I have to submit that from all appearances, it does seem that medical experts do have a strong voice in the way this pandemic is being handled. Many measures and actions to help control the spread of this deadly virus, implemented and enforced by governments across the globe, have been recommended by the World Health Organization. Measures such as social and physical distancing, coughing etiquette, hand hygiene, restrictions on mass gatherings, wearing of the face mask, isolation and quarantine measures, all come from the voices of medical experts. It is also true, though, that many citizens and even some politicians have not been cooperating with the guidelines and advice given by the medical experts, and this has definitely affected us in this fight against the pandemic. Many medical officials, along with the Washington Post, in the early stages of the pandemic, promulgated the fact that the government of the United States failed to anticipate the domestic need for personal protective equipment should the virus hit the US. President Trump at that time scoffed at the criticism. His attitude, however, changed dramatically when the death rate in the US skyrocketed. If only he had taken action earlier. Chairperson, in conclusion, I wish to make the following submissions. Firstly, are politicians across the world using COVID-19 to their advantage? Clearly, the answer is an astounding yes. Secondly, are medical officials at their wits' end trying to gain their voice? I would say to a great extent. And lastly, is this dilemma faced by the medical experts in any way due to political interference? In some ways, yes. But in a general way, this seems to be a result of the lack of cooperation by citizens or simply the inability of governments to enforce preventative and protective measures. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jardine. Ms. Jardine spoke for
8 minutes, 44 seconds.
8 minutes, 44 seconds. I'd like to acknowledge persons viewing on NBC FB page. I'm going to give the judges a little time. Representing the Georgetown Secondary School, Kanali Teixeira.
Madam Chairperson, Your Excellency, Madam Chairperson, Your Excellency the Governor General, Susan Duggan, Mr. Wayne Hall, Country Manager Flo, Dr. Idalia Ferdinand, other government officials, Lion Cornelia Moses, other distinguished lions and leos, principals and teachers, judges, the media, listeners and viewers, ladies and gentlemen, fellow students, good evening. We have tested many drugs, and I believe that we have the best drug to help us with this virus from China. These are the words of the most famous president in human history. In late 2019, the world was thrown into a tailspin. COVID-19, a novel coronavirus, was discovered in Wuhan, China. 10 months into 2020, and we are still trying to grapple with this virus. As of midday today, a staggering 41 million persons across 250 nations have been affected by this virus, with 1.5 million fatalities. Audience, the situation is grim. Politicians across the world have no option but to accept reality and contend with the virus and its adverse and diverse repercussions. Our very own Prime Minister stated that the coronavirus is a monumental challenge and its consequences has 4 intersecting dimensions: health, economic, social, and security, all crisscrossing each other in the global, regional, and national arenas. To some politicians, the virus comes as a golden egg. To others, it is a nail in the coffin. While governments deal with the socio-economic and socio-political fallout from the virus, medical pundits and biotechnologists are working feverishly to understand it. How is it spread? What are the best preventative measures? What is the best course of treatment? And of course, the big one, when will a vaccine be made available? Judges, when one considers the modus operandi of politicians and nuances of governance, it is evident that the international, regional, and local politicians are indeed using the COVID-19 pandemic to their advantage, while medical officials struggle to have their voices heard. Countries continue to use the pandemic to gain political mileage in the geopolitical arena, or have used it to create further divisions amongst themselves. Biopower, a term coined by French philosopher Michel Foucault, is glaring in the geopolitics and biopolitics of the COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, Chairperson, there is a race amongst nations to see who would be the first to produce a vaccine, with the winning country gaining prodigious clout that can be used to relaunch economies and secure political stability. Imagine the hegemony that will exist. In August, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that Russia made a breakthrough in this race, being the first country to approve an experimental vaccine, Sputnik V. Even the name of the vaccine alludes to the Russian political agenda, and the announcement has agitated other countries and health experts on the premises of safety and efficacy. It is noteworthy, judges, that this is the same president who has been accused of underreporting COVID-19 statistics and who successfully used the pandemic to engineer a referendum to extend his time in power. But can we really revile Putin's gambit though, given Russia's history with the Western world? Now consider the US. With the highest number of confirmed cases and deaths for any nation in response to his malfeasance, President Trump resorted to blaming China solely for the proliferation of the virus and the ensuing socio-economic crisis. Now, in fairness to President Trump, had China not played politics in the initial stages of the virus, the world would not have been in a quagmire in which it had been thrown. But China had become the political scapegoat for the austere state of the US economy and society. A sociology professor at the University of Newfoundland opines that this and the high number of infections and deaths contribute to a feeling of fear and insecurity, which fuels President Trump's re-election campaign. Closer to home, Chairperson, the COVID-19 pandemic has also made a mark on our regional politics. The pandemic saw the collapse of regional airline Liat and state-owned airlines Inter-Caribbean Airways and Caribbean Airlines filled the void. Are we to accept this gesture as purely altruistic, judges, and that these governments do not benefit from the collateral damage of COVID-19? Additionally, Chairperson, in the throes of the pandemic, several Caribbean nations have held general elections, and COVID-19 has been the rhetoric of the accompanying campaigns. In fact, judges, 10 of the 15 CARICOM member states will have held some form of general elections in 2020 compared to the 6 5 years earlier. Coincidence? The Global Americans reported that during the August 2020 elections, Trinidad's opposition leader, Keith Rowley, openly accused Prime Minister Keith Rowley of attempting to avoid scrutiny and steal the election by refusing to have overseas observer missions on account of the pandemic and demanded the elections be postponed. Meanwhile, Chairperson, President Mr. Prime Minister Rowley reduced gatherings from 25 persons to 10 just before elections, thwarting campaign rally plans for the opposition, but sanctioned the Caribbean Premier League a mere 8 days after the August 10th elections. A similar song and dance occurred in St. Kitts and Nevis in Jamaica and is currently ongoing right here in St. Vincent. My audience, we exist in a perpetually politically charged climate. Everything and anything will be used advantageously by politicians, a caveat of democracy. Since the pandemic, both government and opposition politicians, in efforts to cajole voters, have accused each other of mismanaging the pandemic. Judges, imagine government politicians bragging about social distancing and low infection rate, then jam people in a vehicle and drive through town in a motorcade. Imagine the opposition accusing the government of leaving us for dead because of perceived lax protocols one night. Then the other night, inviting people to come out in your numbers to the opening of a constituency office. Everyone has been affected by the pandemic, and the government stepped in to alleviate some of the resultant socio-economic strain. And of course, this paints a good picture of the politicians. But what else were they to do, Chairperson? The opposition, on the other hand, repeatedly calls for more stringent protocols to protect our nation. Such altruism by both parties in this heightened election season remains dubious. What is particularly disheartening, Chairperson, is that amidst the pandemic, the noise of politics shouts louder than the reason of medical officials. It is unfortunate enough that these medical officials have yet to fully understand the complex and dynamic nature of this novel virus. But they must also contend with the clamor of politicians and torrents of misinformation from misinformed and malicious people. Imagine, judges, a well-trained Vincentian biochemical engineer was the object of vilification when she offered her insights on virology. Chairperson, President Trump, after spending 2 days in the hospital, walked out on the balcony of the White House and peeled away his mask while still very much infected. What a slap in the faces of the medical officials, proponents of mask wearing. Earlier this month, The Guardian reported a tweet by the president where he claimed that he was cured of and is immune to COVID-19. Despite lack of evidence to support such claims, this prompted the former acting director of the Center of Disease Control, Dr. Richard Besser, to conclude that the integrity of the CDC has been compromised. CNN reports that the percentage of persons willing to take a vaccine is dropping because of political interference. Then there is the issue of the political race for finding a vaccine, placing undue pressure on medical experts. And do not forget that the Chinese coronavirus whistleblower was punished for inciting fear. How can we hear the medical pundits and judges when there is so much noise around us? The COVID-19 pandemic has thrown the world into disarray, and the ramifications are evident in the socio-economic, political, and biomedical spectrum. Politicians exercise their biopower and are using the pandemic to gain to their advantage, whether it be via clandestine mechanisms or overt operations. Medical experts are still struggling to understand the virus and develop a vaccine while competing with a barrage of challenges. Chairperson, judges, my audience. Let us implore politicians to do better. Medical experts, let us hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shearer. Mr. Shearer spoke for
9 minutes, 46 seconds.
9 minutes, 46 seconds. I'll still give the judges a bit of time. Representing the St. Vincent Grammar School, Stanislaus Gomes.
Madam Chairperson, Your Excellency Governor General Dame Susan Duggan, Mr. Wayne Hull, Country Manager Flo, Dr. Ideal Ferdinand, Senior Education Officer, Ministry of Education, National Reconciliation and Information, other government officials, Lion Cornelia Moses, President's Lion Club St. Vincent South, other distinguished Lions and Leos, principals and teachers, judges, the media, listeners and viewers, ladies and gentlemen, fellow students, a pleasant good evening. French President Emmanuel Macron once stated, when politics is no longer a mission but a profession, politicians become more self-serving than public servants. More and more across the globe, we are seeing the rise of leaders whose sole aim is perpetuity in office, self-aggrandizement, and personal gain. As the monster of COVID-19 descended upon us, many politicians globally have used and are continuing to use the pandemic to their advantage. They are placing medical professionals at their wits' end and rendering them voiceless. However, some have actually exhibited concern for their citizens and respect for the medical professionals in their employ in the interest of safeguarding lives. Chairperson, according to the World Health Organization, COVID-19 has affected 216 countries globally. A proper course of action to deal with the pandemic means that the information provided by governments must be complete, valid, and reliable. Unfortunately, this is not happening in many cases. In an article entitled "The Politics Behind How Government Controls Coronavirus Data," Anton Olnick states that in the US, various levels of government remain the ultimate source of the reported COVID-19 figures. The accuracy of those figures is questionable, since Wired.com in August reported that the US is disastrously behind in COVID-19 testing. Additionally, President Trump stated publicly in June, if we stop testing right now, we'd have very few cases, an overt call to manipulate figures. Critics say that the socioeconomic crisis caused by the pandemic has made the political stakes very high for President Trump in the upcoming elections, hence his need to appear to be controlling the situation. Meanwhile, the article captioned, "Politicians Shunt Aside Public Health Officials," reveals that 4 months into the pandemic, some governors and local officials sidelined public health professionals in a rush to reboot their states' economies. In addition, the Washington Post headlines on June 11th read, "Fauci sidelined by Trump as he talks bluntly about the pandemic." To make matters worse, the Guardian newspaper of October 7th reported that Dr. Rick Bright, an immunologist at the National Institute of Health, has quit his post, charging that the Trump administration, quote, "ignores scientific expertise, overrules public health guidance, and disrespects career scientists," end quote. Chairperson, It is small wonder that the US right now has the highest number of reported COVID-19 cases worldwide. Donald Trump is calling the shots and handicapping medical experts, hoping that this would work to his political advantage. According to Olinik, the pandemic is also used as a ploy in Russia and Brazil. Both countries are guilty of twisting data and using the COVID-19 pandemic for their own political mileage, while silencing health professionals. President Vladimir Putin has used the pandemic to argue that his rule must be secured until 2036 to avoid upheaval, while underreporting the true number of COVID-19 related deaths in that country. The Russian government protects its monopoly on the production and dissemination of COVID-19 data. A group of medical doctors in Chechnya attempted to complain about the lack of preparedness towards COVID-19. They were promptly accused of provocations and forced to deliver public apologies. Chairperson, Putin is prioritizing political power. Of necessity, medical professionals dare to tell the truth. Similarly, according to a New York Times report, in early June, it took a Supreme Court order to get the Brazilian government to repost the number of coronavirus cases and deaths it had removed from the health ministry's websites and to stop suppressing the data. The president, who called the virus a little flu, has also strengthened the role of military in this pandemic. Gone are not just one, but two health ministers, both doctors, and in their place is an interim minister who has no medical background. His whole strategy is very clear, says Oliver Stwinkle, a professor of international relations in Sao Paulo. He's decided not to take responsibility for the growing crisis because he sees that as his best chance to stay in office. When a journalist told Bolsonaro about the large number of deaths, his reply was, "Some people will die. They will die. That's life." That, Chairperson, needs no explanation. Similarly, in this group of selfish political thugs is none other than China's President Xi Jinping. The Straits Times International in February reported that Chinese government officials chose to put secrecy and order ahead of openly confronting the growing crisis to avoid public alarm and political embarrassment. When Dr. Li Wenling tried to warn persons about the threat of the mysterious illness, police compelled him to sign a statement that his warning constituted of illegal behavior. This cover-up cost Dr. Li his life. Chairperson, China isn't just letting the crisis go to waste. It has capitalized on the world's distraction to claim sovereignty over disputed islands in the South China Sea, intimidate Taiwan, and assert more authority over Hong Kong. It has also sent needed medical equipment and doctors to heavily impacted countries where it seeks to expand its influence. Experts say that this is all part of Xi's broader strategy to dislodge America as the world's sole superpower and expand China's reach around the world. In other words, he is merely exploiting the growing crisis to gain his aims even faster. Fortunately for humanity, while some world leaders have played politics with the pandemic to gain an advantage, some decent leaders still see politics as a mission and try valiantly to protect who they serve. New Zealand's early success in controlling coronavirus disease has been described as crushing the curve. According to the Director General of Health, Dr. Ashley Bloomfield, at every step of the response, the government of New Zealand was guided by public health advice and evolving evidence. In Jacinda Ardern's government, there was no cover-up or distorted numbers for political points. Also, the World Health Organization Western Pacific News stated that in June, Singapore had recorded over 30,000 cases and 25 deaths. Similarly, South Korea had recorded over 11,000 cases and 300 deaths. Both countries have been hailed as winners for their handling of the pandemic. Taiwan also shared similar success. According to Ian Bremer, Time magazine's foreign affairs editor, medical officials held briefings for the public daily. Throughout, the government's centralized response was seen as convincing and credible. It certainly didn't hurt that Taiwan's vice president is an epidemiologist. Right here in the region, praise is also due. Many Caribbean countries, such as Grenada and St. Kitts, have moved quickly to close their borders, introduce quarantine measures, and impose social distancing protocols. The Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, has been heavily engaged in raising public awareness on all things COVID-19 and providing up-to-date situation reports and guidelines to assist in managing and controlling the spread of this virus. The Caribbean Coronavirus Tracker, as of October 13th, revealed that of the 45 million people living right here in the region, almost 200,000 have been infected, 4,000 have died, and over 200,000 have been recovered. This indeed is a remarkable feat that is credited to the wisdom of our leaders, who are largely guided by the advice of medical officials and not by their own political agendas. Chairperson, it is evident that by using half-truths and twisted data, Trump, Putin, Bolsonaro, and Xi have attempted to manipulate COVID-19 statistics while frustrating and muzzling those with the know-how, the medical officials. Sadly, in the process, there was collateral damage. Multitudes perished. On the other hand, the leaders of New Zealand, Singapore, South Korea, and Taiwan, as well as many others in the Caribbean, stand out as champions. They stand as symbols of care, common sense, and compassion. Leaders who listened to and trusted the medical experts instead of selfishly silencing them. They will be remembered for putting preservation of life over their own political agendas. Chairperson, hats off to those heroes. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomes. Mr. Gomes spoke for
9 minutes, 49 seconds.
9 minutes, 49 seconds. Once again, I'd like to give the judges a little time. Representing the Union Island Secondary School, Gia Gloucester,
Madam Chairperson, Your Excellency the Governor General, Dame Susan Douglas, Mr. Wayne Hall, Country Manager Flo, Dr. Idalia Ferdinand, Senior Education Officer, Ministry of Education, National Reconciliation and Information, other government officials, Lion Cornelia Moses, President Lions Club, St. Vincent South, other distinguished Lions and Leos, principals and teachers, judges, the media, listeners and viewers, ladies and gentlemen, fellow students, a pleasant good afternoon. Good night. Pandemic is not a word to be used lightly or carelessly. It is a word that, if misused, can cause unreasonable fear, leading to unnecessary suffering and death. By show of hands, who can tell me who is Dr. Tendros Adhanom, the author of this quote? By show of hands, who can tell me who asked medical officials to check whether they can inject disinfectants into our body to kill the virus?
Dr. Tedros Adhanom is the Director General of World Health Organization and the source of the false quotes. And of course, as rightfully and collectively recognized, US President Donald Trump is responsible for the latter. Generally, we can quote what has been said by political leaders, but not what has been said by medical professionals on the coronavirus. Madam Chairperson, I appreciate the timeliness of this topic to be addressed. Politicians across the world are using the COVID-19 pandemic to their advantage, whilst medical officials are at their wits' end trying to gain their voice. I submit, Madam Chairperson, that I strongly agree with the entirety of this claim. Before I delve into this topic, it is prudent to define the phrase "at their wits' end." The Cambridge Dictionary describes it as, and I quote, "to be so worried, confused, or annoyed that you do not know what to do next," end of quote. The COVID-19 pandemic has created a particular set of circumstances that have paved the way for politicians to exploit it for their ends. Let me provide some context. In December 2019, an outbreak of the novel coronavirus was identified in Wuhan, China. Within a month, the Director General of World Health Organization, WHO, declared it a cause for public international concern. After another 6 weeks, it was declared a pandemic. To date, Madam Chairperson, over 40 million people globally have contracted the coronavirus. Over 1.1 million people have already died. With statistics like this, is it that people across the world are gripped by fear and uncertainty and are looking to their leaders to provide strong and decisive actions to manage this crisis? For authoritarian leaders, the coronavirus crisis is offering a convenient pretext to silence critics and consolidate power. According to RAT 2020, some governments are breathing a sigh of relief that the coronavirus has created a particular reason to limit political demonstrations. The Algerian government has halted regular protests seeking genuine democratic reform that have been underway for more than a year. The Russian government terminated protests against Putin's plans to ramp up term limits on his presidency, and in fact, he has claimed that he would be president indefinitely. In Thailand, Cambodia, Venezuela, Bangladesh, and Turkey, governments are detaining journalists, opposition activists, healthcare workers, and anyone else who dares to criticize the official response to coronavirus. Can you imagine the pressure on medical officials if political leaders are using high-handed means to silence them? Madam Chairperson, is it that medical professionals are trying to find their voice, or are they afraid of losing their positions because the science-backed advice does not favor the political leaders' demonstrations? Madam Chairperson, Luis Mandetta, the former Brazilian health minister, was fired by President Bolsonaro after a public clash where the minister encouraged social distancing to stem the spread of the virus. The president disagreed and instead downplayed the virus, referring to it as, and I quote, a little flu. Prior to that, he called the virus a fantasy and described preventative measures as hysterical. This sentiment was echoed by President Trump, who called the virus a hoax. Trump's refusal to wear a mask in public and his open violation of the directive to limit large gatherings must have Dr. Anthony Fauci, head of the U.S. Corona Task Force, at his wits' end. In a Stat News interview, one Miami-based U.S. physician stated, and I quote, "Many of us feel we've been put at risk by the ineptitude of the leadership across the board. We saw the pandemic developing, but still couldn't get our hands around it," end of quote. Many medical professionals are especially annoyed. They felt that their country should have learned the hard lesson from Italy's difficult experience and acted early to prepare their health systems. Madam Chairperson, how could medical officials not be worried and annoyed when world leaders like Trump and Bolsonaro openly contradict their guidelines? Some consider it poetic justice when both presidents later contracted the virus. I do wonder if Mr. Trump have been taking his daily dose of Clorox bleach to speed up his recovery. The number of cases of the virus is increasing in specific countries in several U.S. states. The directive of the U.S. Center for Disease Control has stated that a vaccine would be likely by May 2021. However, leaders like Trump are pushing for the vaccine to be ready much earlier, with Trump stating that it will be ready by mid-October. Madam Chairperson, shouldn't we the people be worried when politicians in clear contradiction to medical experts and are pushing a message for political points rather than public health and safety? This is costing us our very lives. Even here at home, Madam Chairperson, our leaders are using the pandemic to score political points, using the government as a basis for campaigning. Why is politics overshadowing the battle against the virus? Why is it that Smithson and the Grenadines against the common enemy, this virus? Madam Chairperson, let us consider the countries that have done well in limiting the spread of the pandemic. They include Taiwan, Germany, and New Zealand. Their leaders would have acted early, followed the guidelines of the medical officials, and implemented collaborative strategies across different sectors of their respective countries. Hence, they were able to manage the pandemic and avoid excessive pressure on their medical systems. You may want to note that these are all female-led countries. It would be remiss of me, Madam Chairperson, to ignore another side of the coin on this issue. According to Antoine Povale, a doctoral research fellow at the University of Oslo, medical professionals only tend to have one aim, and that is to limit the spread of the virus. However, politicians are expected to consider other issues, especially the economy, the mental health of the society, of the population, and the country's ability to handle other emergencies. Madam Chairperson, this does not justify the lack of seriousness and the absence of robust and comprehensive national strategies required to adequately manage this crisis. Gandhi clearly postulates that, and I quote, "It is health that is real wealth and not pieces of silver and gold," end of quote. The COVID-19 pandemic is a global crisis, and it can be only addressed through meaningful cooperation amongst world's power. It is a matter of life and death. Politicians need to work hand in hand with the medical officials to manage this pandemic and stop playing politics with our lives. I thank you.
Miss Gloucester spoke for
8 minutes, 54 seconds.
8 minutes, 54 seconds. We are now at our student prepared speech segment. The judges tonight will be looking for manner, language, voice, and material, carrying 5 points each, giving us a total of 20 points. Just a reminder, this segment, the speaker shall speak for a period not exceeding 5 minutes. Can you please welcome Marika Batiste of the St. Vincent Girls High School.
Protocol has already been established. Baundada Alfalara, Garifuna 4, the struggle continues. My topic tonight is challenges faced by the people over the dry river. Centuries after, the Kalinagos, led by His Excellency Joseph Chataillé, fought relentlessly against the colonization of this blessed isle. The war still rages as today we, his descendants, struggle against the issues of stereotyping, poverty, and geographical constraints. Bawun Dada Alfalara for respect and the end to stereotyping by persons who look like us and not like the colonizers. Garifuna women are unfairly sexualized, seen as having loose morals because of the perception that their blood is close to their skin. What rubbish! Secondly, recently on social media, the villagers of Sandy Bay were vilified for their support of a political party and were labeled as ignorant, lacking basic common sense, and even being oblivious to the fact that man had landed on the moon. People over the river are seen as lacking in the ability to speak the Queen's English, unlike more affluent areas of the island. Yet, in 2016, Marika Baptiste of Fancy was one of 2 top English performers in that year's CPA exam, dismantling the misguided notion that standard English skills is linked to one's place of residence. The struggle continues when 4 years later, at the preliminary round of the Lions public speaking competition, I was approached by someone who said to me, "From Fancy, wow, so much for the elitism of my school," but I digress. Although most likely well-meaning, I couldn't help but think you would never hear from Kingstown. Wow. Balundada Alfalara against crippling poverty, which is at a 55% for communities over the river, according to Cairo report of 2007-2008. This is almost twice that of the national average of poverty, which is 30.2%. The struggle continues when we are forced to be absent from school due to dire economic situation, which lessens our job opportunities, when the food that we can afford isn't what is most healthy for us. Baundada Alfalara, when we are labeled as being behind God's back, when we are left isolated from other parts of the island during natural disasters, when rough terrain claimed the lives of 7 young souls at Rock Gutter on their quest for education. Baundada Alfalara, when electricity came to Fancy as late as the 16th July 1995, and when cell salvage is sketchy, causing one to have to move to higher ground just to gain signals. When students like myself must leave the safety of our homes to live with friends or family, leaving our parents unsure if we will be abused or neglected just to go to secondary schools. But despite our challenges, we continue to make our mark on the Vincentian landscape through the National Heroes Day celebrations, where everyone is suddenly eager to travel in droves behind God's back. Our community spirit is second to none, as seen by the way we band together to light up our communities and the pride we take knowing that Point is the 6th-time winner in the National Lighting Up competition. Look at the dominant performance of our primary schools in the Primary School Performing Arts Festival. Garifuna people are also notable persons. Take for instance, Calypso Monarch, Tadro, ace distance runner, Pamenos Ballantyne, renowned midwife, Nurse Sarah Baptiste, Elma Francois of Overland, who rose to become a national hero in Trinidad, and I, Marika Baptiste of Fancy, whose story is yet to be written. Baundada Alfalara, and yet we Garifuna people, we rise undaunted, unbowed, a resilient people with the blood of Châteauguay coursing through our veins. We shall never be defeated. We Garifuna people shall never be defeated. Garifuna forever. I thank you.
Miss Baptiste spoke for
4 minutes, 52 seconds.
4 minutes, 52 seconds. Representing the Mountain View Adventist Academy, Ariana Jardine.
Protocols already been established. Good night. Speak it. About 7 decades ago, a very headstrong youth, Michael de Freitas, roamed the streets of Belmont, just outside of Port of Spain. So offensive was his behavior, he was thrown out of school at age 14. The Guardian newspaper in 1975 reports that back then, his mother was often heard telling him he will end up at the end of the hangman's rope. Michael de Freitas changed his name. He changed his religion and became a Muslim. He traveled to England and became a Black Power activist. The one thing he could not change were his mother's woeful words. In 1972, having returned to Trinidad, he was convicted of murder and sentenced to be hanged. And on May 16th, in 1975, in the prison at Port of Spain, he was hanged, just as his mother said he would. His new name was Abdul Malik. Chairperson, that should be a warning to parents and teachers. The old adage, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, is not true. Words do hurt, but words also have a motivating effect as well. So do be careful what you say to the children in your care, for the Bible does say that there is life and death in the tongue. Chairperson, speaking it and witnessing the reality of our thoughts and words does not only apply to someone speaking to another. It also applies to someone speaking to him or herself. Now, throughout most of my life, I was that shy, quiet, introverted girl. I always had friends, yes, but I always managed to fade into the background. Now, I'm in Form 5, and I was challenged to speak in front of a crowd on television. Not really my cup of tea, but I finally decided to do it. My immediate goal was to be in the finals of this public speaking competition, and of course I intend to win it. So, I started speaking it. I spoke it. I believed it. I visualized it. This then motivated me and gave me the courage to go forth confidently. Did that work? Well, I know I am a little diminutive in size, but if you look carefully at this podium in the 2020 public speaking finals, you will see I am here. So there must be something to speaking it and believing it. I must caution us, though, that mere thinking about or speaking it does not make it happen. It is true that an idea must first be conceived, but how many great ideas have remained just that? Great ideas, and never saw the light of achievement. Chairperson, the Bible says it so much better than I can. Faith without works is dead. James 2:14 through 26. Faith represents the thoughts and the words we speak. Work has to do with the preparation, the sacrifices we are willing to make so that our thoughts and words can be translated to reality. Now, if, for example, someone is preparing for public speaking finals and they just sit around all day speaking the mantra, I'm going to win, I'm going to be the best, I'm the best public speaker there, and does nothing else, could that person go on to win? Of course no. That person had better settle down, do some serious brainstorming, jot down ideas, do some researching, discuss the ideas, seek help. Then they must write, learn, and practice their speech. And when they have done all in their power to prepare themselves, then they can just let go and surrender themselves to the exhilaration of standing before the audience and experience the joys of manifestation of thoughts and words. Chairperson, I must ask, can words be that powerful? What we say out loud, what we tell ourselves, can it really make a difference? The Bible in Proverbs 25 verse 11 encourages us. Words fitly spoken are like apples of gold in pitchers of silver. So, Chairperson, listening and viewing audience, what is your dream? Is it to become the next Prime Minister? Speak it. Is it to become a successful lawyer or doctor? You have to speak it. Is it to own a bakery in the south of France? Speak it. Speak life, speak success. Just speak it. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jardine. Ms. Jardine spoke for
4 minutes, 11 seconds.
4 minutes, 11 seconds. Representing the Georgetown Secondary School, Kenali Teixeira.
Protocol has been established. Good night. Consider with me the Creole disillusion. Gela, we go down the road now. Kenali, speak properly. That is not standard English. How many times have you heard the speak properly line repeated whenever you speak the vernacular? Are we ashamed of our language as a people? Why are other nations proud of their language and we are not of ours? The official language of St. Vincent is English, British English to be exact. My audience, as you are quite aware, we speak the vernacular or dialect which is Vincentian Creole. According to the Atlas of Pidgin and Creole, Vincentians from all walks of life use the Creole or dialect as it's sometimes referred to. However, some Vincentians do not recognize their vernacular as a legitimate language. Disclaimer, Chairperson. I am not here to bash the English language because it is the world's lingua franca. Instead, I am simply here to highlight the way Vincentian Creole is viewed in our culture. According to Cambridge.org, language is foremost a means of communication which almost always occurs within some sort of social context. This is why effective communication requires an understanding and recognition of a language that is used by people. Chairperson, Vincentian Creole is unique to us, so we should not be linguistically ashamed of our mother tongue. Judges, it is in our linguistic human right to express Vincentian Creole as part of our culture. Too often do we hear that Vincentian Creole is not good enough. Suppressing and stigmatizing of our Creole as a language will mean we are ashamed of our past and our ancestors. Dr. Louisa Maffey, co-founder of the Terralingua organization, opines that the loss of cultural and linguistic diversity represents a drastic reduction of our human heritage. The epitome of what it means to be human. My audience, the language of a country is a crucial part of who we are as a people. Why not teach your children to code switch instead of instilling in them that Vincentian Creole is a bad language? Mr. Chairperson, Madam Chairperson, I am not denying the fact that we should not teach our children the rules of English, but in the same breath, we have to teach them about our culture, which includes our dialect, Vincentian Creole. Judges, have you ever noticed that Jamaicans, Trinidadians, and citizens of other countries are extremely proud of their language? Not only that, has it ever dawned on you that we as Vincentians are always trying to adopt another man's language? I have witnessed on numerous occasions where people will go to Jamaica, Trinidad, and New York for 1 week and return to St. Vincent sounding like a full-bred Yardie, Trini, and Yankee. Me either hurt me. All you going later? What you doing? Oh, the hypocrisy. My audience, this might sound funny, but it is the reality of the situation. We are comfortable speaking other countries' dialect, but as it relates to our mother tongue, we are so dismissive. Judges, we cannot keep stigmatizing Vincentian Creole because it's a part of us. I have had my own experiences as a student as well. I have gotten repulsive looks from adults whenever I use the vernacular. I am not going to lie. It has really made me question my own intelligence and ability to communicate. There is also a rather ridiculous hierarchy of language variations. Mina no is not as suave or sophisticated as I know, which is seen as more correct but not as respected as I do not know. Chairperson, the originality is a reflection of our diversity as a people. Language forms an important part of one's identity and culture in any society. It is a vehicle we use to express ourselves as a people. Esteemed chairperson, erudite judges, my attentive audience, we have to get past the shame and stigmatization and embrace the beauty of a language that other countries appreciate except us. The popular Harun advertisement says, hold your own. As we celebrate our 41st anniversary of independence, let us break the shackles of colonialism that binds us to the Queen's English. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shearer. Mr. Shearer spoke for
5 minutes, 10 seconds.
Thank you. 5 minutes, 10 seconds. A reminder that the allotted time is 5 minutes. Please welcome the St. Vincent Grammar School, Stanislaus Gomes.
With protocol having already been established, good evening once again. They say when it rains, it pours. I must confess, I have never paid much attention in my English class on idioms. However, being a student in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in 2020 has taught me the real meaning of this expression. You see, it didn't just rain. For the past 7 months, we have faced downpours, torrents, and inundating floods. In 2020, students in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are drowning. Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, SOS, please save our students. Following the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic, schools across this nation closed prematurely on March 20th. This marked the first ominous drops of rain, the loss of classroom instruction. Surely, global trends would have predicted and foreshadowed that prolonged school closure was inevitable. But local education officials were caught with their pants down. Absolutely nothing was put in place to facilitate the smooth transition to virtual learning. Many schools lagged in establishing online platforms, robbing us of much needed instructional time. Chairperson, as time elapsed, we began to sink. These droplets of rain began to beat upon us when online learning exposed high-level poverty and inequality, the existing achievement gap in our educational system. Chairperson, hundreds of students experienced grave challenges accessing online classes. Many had no internet connection, no devices, and most alarmingly, some even had no electricity. Don't be misled. Being back in school did not erase these challenges. We still have research to do and projects and assignments to complete, which all require internet access and devices. We were promised 30,000 tablets. We were hopeful. Now, 7 months later, we are still waiting. It is said that a promise is a comfort to a fool. Am I to believe that we, the future of this nation, are fools? Furthermore, on September 21st, flood waters raged with CSEC and CAPE examination results. Hundreds of students, not to mention many top performers, were drenched with dismal grades, outright failure, or were simply ungraded. School administrators have even questioned the validity of these results. Chairperson, the ramifications are grave. While some await the review of results, they are being tossed to and fro on the sides of uncertainty and fear. Chairperson, who will fight for us? Who will save us? Ladies and gentlemen, if all those trials were not horrendous enough, in 2020, young children are being swept away in a flood of dengue, a preventable disease. On October 1st, Eyewitness News St. Vincent reported the deaths of a 4-year-old male and a 9-year-old male due to dengue fever. On October 10th, the headlines again read, "Girl, 13, is SVG's latest dengue death." According to a release from the Ministry of Health, especially worrying is that 51.3% of persons affected are in the age group 0 to 15 years. And so I ask, why was the mosquito eradication budget reduced? We have lost 3 young minds, 3 youths with potential, 3 students' lives who could have been saved. SVG, like the mighty Duke, I ask, how many more must die? How many more? Chairperson, 2020 is drawing to a close, but it hasn't stopped raining. I see no end to the deluge of problems that continue to overwhelm us, the students in this nation. We began sinking while stuck at home for weeks without instruction. We continue to sink since the ability to do internet research, type assignments, projects, and the like seem to be a gift for the privileged few. The CXC crisis continues to plague us with uncertainty, depression, and fear of the future. The scourge of dengue stalks the land. The flood rages on. Chairperson, children are crying. Students are dying. Send us a lifeline. SOS, SOS. Save our students. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomes. Mr. Gomes spoke for
4 minutes, 40 seconds.
4 minutes, 40 seconds. Representing the Union Island Secondary School, Gia Gloucester.
With the protocol already being established, a pleasant good afternoon. Who stole a culture from Vinceland? Did Gia steal the culture from Vinceland? Who, me? Yes, you. Can't be. Then who? PUBG, Netflix, WhatsApp, and the latest dancehall songs are the norms of our generation. Madam Chairperson, which one of these originated in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Maybe if I said folk songs, ring games, and pitching marbles, you may begin to reminisce about your childhood. You may wonder why a teenager like me would have an issue with our lost cultural traditions. Permit me to enlighten you, Madam Chairperson. I am a lost girl with an unknown past, a confused present, and a cultureless future. I am tired of hearing, Gia, back in the days I used to do this and I used to do that and it was so much fun. Madam Chairperson, am I to be blamed for not being able to participate in these back in the day activities? What are we doing at proud Vincentians to preserve our cultural traditions? We cannot continue to rest on our laurels. Today we tend to admire and even praise the Jamaican society for their cultural pride, recognizing plays such as Bashment Granny and Oliver. This is due to the esteemed writers, poets, and playwrights such as Kamau Brathwaite and Lord Godinson, who aim to preserve their culture and proudly celebrate it. Can you even name any of our local poets, authors, or playwrights? Do the names David Daki Williams, Michael Peters, or Blazer Williams rings a bell? It seems as if our grandparents and parents have been brainwashed into believing that our cultural traditions are unworthy of being passed down to the younger generation. Today, I am a lost girl with an unknown past, a confused present, and a cultureless future. Madam Chairperson, let me bring the chicken home to roost. Cultural awareness and traditions help young children to develop a positive sense of identity and build their self-esteem. Additionally, our cultural celebration and education help children to create a diverse social network while transitioning into adulthood. Unfortunately, we have become unappreciative of the very cultural fabric that our ancestors brought and maintained during the most demeaning and dehumanized history known to man. Remember, a people without a culture is like a sheep without a shepherd. Why are you allowing me to be a lost girl with an unknown past, a confused present, and a cultureless future? Madam Chairperson, do you know what a tea meeting is? It was olden days, public speaking done 3 times a year. Speak well or get fruit skin thrown at you. What has happened to kite flying, marble pitching, ring games, moonlight games, old mass, maypole and storytelling? Some are dead while others are struggling to stay alive. Why is it only at Independence time that our teacher encourages us to sing folk songs? Do you know that they get mad when we mumble the words to the song that we only hear once per year? Madam Chairperson, we should be ashamed. We must have a few activities remaining, such as boat building, 9 morning, National Heroes Day celebration, and the busting of bamboos. How can I forget our rain dance done at Maroon in Union Island? Madam Chairperson, these things only happen once a year. Dancehall music, television, and cell phones are the puppet masters, and we are the puppets. They say that Sammy is dead, and if left unattended, our culture will suffer the same fate. Poor me, a lost girl with an unknown past, a confused present, and a cultureless future. Ministry of Education, our cultural traditions need to be included in the curriculum. Stop making excuses such as loss of instructional time. We are already losing the interest of our students by making school a place for only academics. Where are the cultural tradition workshops? Granny, Tanti, Mama, please help us. Teach us the language and dance of our strong Garifuna people. Tell us the sweet Anansi stories. Show us the exciting games that brought our people together. Help us appreciate who we are so that we can resurrect our buried culture. We must do more to preserve our unique Vincentian cultural traditions. Let us do it now before they are relegated to bittersweet, distant memory. I no longer want to be a lost girl with an unknown past, a confused present, and a cultureless future. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Gloucester. Miss Gloucester spoke for
4 minutes, 59 seconds.
4 minutes, 59 seconds. We would now have the impromptu speech segment. This category would be totaling 20 points. Each speaker shall have 1 minute to consider the topic and no more than 2 minutes to present his or her topic. I would welcome Lion Junior Bacchus, our public speaking coordinator, to assist me with this segment. And first, we have Marika Batiste of the St. Vincent Girls High School. Would speak on giving thanks. Giving thanks.
My topic tonight is giving thanks. It is always important to give thanks, so much so that there is a whole day dedicated to Thanksgiving Day. My grandmother always told me when I was growing up, When you get bigger, I'm sure you're not going to thank me. You're going to be very ungrateful. I still don't know why she thinks this, But anyways, sometimes it is very hard to give thanks because things don't always go the way we want them to go. Take, for instance, on Christmas time, my grandmother always buy me books. Yes, I love books, but come on. Sometimes you want something else, so why should I always be thankful when I don't get exactly what I want? However, we have to remember that there are people in places who don't get anything at all. We have to remember that there are people struggling and wishing for the things that I am here breaking style off of. So, I encourage you all, give thanks, whether little, whether big. Always remember, you don't even know where your parents are getting this money to buy these things for you. So be grateful. I encourage you all, please be grateful. I thank you.
Miss Batiste spoke for
1 minute 13 seconds.
1 minute 13 seconds. Please welcome Ariana Jardine of the Mountain View Adventist Academy. Miss Jardine will speak on blackfish. Blackfish.
Protocol has already been established. Good night. The topic I've been given on to speak on tonight is blackfish. Now, truthfully, I'm not sure whether it's one, like an actual species of fish, or two, if they mean blackfishing. So I'm going to probably go the second one. Let's just hope that I'm right. What is blackfishing? Now, to give a little bit of context, there's actually this trend on TikTok, most of the young people, or maybe some of the older ones who know what I'm talking about, where it's like, is that a black woman or an overly tanned white girl? That's basically what blackfishing is. Women who are not of the black race, who are overly tanned, so much so that they actually look black. It's a huge problem in today's society, where many celebrities, I can name a few, Nikita Dragon, Kim Kardashian was actually accused of blackfishing a couple times. So much so where, and it caused so much disarray in a community, our community, which is so underrated and mistreated. The racism is something that we've suffered from the beginning of time, when sin came into existence and people decided that, because I am lighter, I am better. Which, come on, what kind of sense does that make? Does our blood not all run red? So this blackfishing trend, it needs to stop. It's so widespread now that a lot of the time, you see a picture and you're wondering, wait. That's a black woman? Really? And then, you see her skin color and you're like, she looks like that. But then you look at her features. You look at the bone straight hair, you look at the pretty eyes, you look at the, all of these features that are not our traditional beautiful black features. I implore people, especially if you are of lighter skin color, when you're going on social media, please be proud of who you are. I thank you.
Ariana spoke for
2 minutes, 23 seconds.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Georgetown Secondary School, Kenali Teixeira. Kenali would speak on friendship. Friendship.
Protocol has been established. Good night. My topic is friendships. We all know what is friendship. What are friendships, right? Friendship is when you and a particular individual have the connections that you won't find yourself with another individual. Like you have the kind of connection and closeness with that person. You can be able to tell or, relate to that person like anything. You can literally tell that person anything. That is in my opinion, that is what I know from friendships. Now I'm going to tell you the importance of friendships, good things about friendships, bad things about friendships, and I'm going to give you a story about my past. The importance of friendships. It is good to have somebody who is your friend, because rather than being talking to every and anybody about anything, you can have that friend who can, who you can go and talk to, relate your problems, family problems, personal problems. Good things about that is the importance of friendships, right? Good things about friendships. They are very, good. They are very good. That is me, that they are very good. And the bad about friendships, like if you have a friend and you're going through certain problems in life and you go and talk to that friend about what is happening, what is currently happening in your life, it would not be nice for a friend to go and, spill what you have told them. So that is a very bad example of having a friendship. And my best friend is right here with me tonight. She's a very supportive, kind, and generous friend. I am so proud to have her here, because if it wasn't other than my father, he's right there. If it wasn't for him, I do not know who else would have been here to support me tonight. And I'm very grateful for my friend. If I didn't have any much else to say on friendships, I would have spoken about my best friend. And Anika, I am so happy that you can be here with me tonight. And because of you, I was so nervous, and but because of watching you down there, it made me build that confidence, and I appreciate you for being here with me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shearer. Mr. Shearer spoke for
3 minutes, 1 second.
3 minutes, 1 second. Now we have representing the St. Vincent Grammar School, Stanislaus Gomes. Mr. Gomes' topic is being young. Being young.
With protocol having already been established, my impromptu topic for this evening is being young. And good evening once again. What is considered young these days, you may ask? Young these days are considered anyone under 20 years of age. Being young, being young is a very good thing, as it allows you to make better decisions about your future. You can gain more experiences when you're young than when you're older. Being young is a very good thing. Some older persons want to be young again so that they can redo their mistakes. Being young is very good. I am young. And I have the ability to experience things that an older person might not have the chance to experience. In conclusion, being young is very good. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomes. Mr. Gomes spoke for
1 minute, 23 seconds.
1 minute, 23 seconds. Representing the Union Island Secondary School, we have Gia Gloucester. Gia's topic tonight is election time. Election time.
With the protocol already being established, a pleasant good night. I was asked to speak on the topic, election time. Election time is nearly upon us. Well, to be precise, I think it is November the 5th, 2020. Yes. I am sure that everyone in here knows that I can't vote. I'm underage and I don't have an ID. But I am sure that whichever party wins, that they would have a plan in store for SVG. And a good plan too. So I'm not going to stand here and say, oh, Labour gonna win, NDP and have no plans for SVG, or Labour dead, NDP is going to win, because I know nothing about politics. So whoever wins, I am sure that they will manage St. Vincent very good, and that everybody who votes in will, take a nice sit down and think about what you think who party would have a nice plan for SVG, because we young people are the future of SVG, and one day, you never know, I might be sitting in the Prime Minister office, being Prime Minister one day. So that's all I have to say about this topic. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gloucester. Ms. Gloucester spoke for
1 minute 31 seconds.
1 minute 31 seconds. Thank you very much to all the participants tonight, and we really appreciate the effort that you have all displayed. Can you really give them a round of applause for their presentation tonight? Everything was well executed. I would now welcome Lion Sumona Moses to do the vote of thanks.
The Lions Club St. Vincent South wishes to express sincere gratitude to the following persons and business entities for making this evening's event a success. Her Excellency, the Governor General, Dame Susan Duggan, for gracing us with your presence. Mr. Wayne Hall, FLO's Country Manager, thank you for your opening remarks and for your company's continued sponsorship of this event. The Lions Club South appreciates your support and look forward to an unrelenting relationship with FLO. Reverend Adolph Davis, Superintendent of the KINGSTOWN Chateaubelair Circuit of the Methodist Church, for the invocation. Dr. Idalia Ferdinand, Senior Education Officer with responsibility for school safety and research in the Ministry of Education. Thank you for your opening remarks, and by extension, the Lions Club also wishes to thank the Ministry of Education and all education officials for their guidance and support throughout this competition. The Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, Constable Woodley, for providing us with the introductory musical accompaniment for our participants. To our very own President, Lion Cornelia Moses, for her opening remarks and for highlighting various past and future projects of the club. Lion Monel Marksman, for chairing this evening's event, thank you for a job well done. To our 5 esteemed judges, we express our sincere gratitude to you for evaluating each speaker's presentation, and to our auditor, Cyprian Isaac, from the firm of BDO, for tabulating the final scores. To the staff of the Methodist Church Hall for accommodating us at this venue, Mr. Joe Mackey and DJ Kano for providing us with technical support and the sound system. To all media houses present, thank you for broadcasting this evening's event. Principals and teachers for all participating schools, a heartfelt thank you for your support and for adequately preparing the students for this evening's competition. To our 5 finalists, without your participation, this evening's event would not be possible. Congratulations, you are all winners. Thanks to the ECGC and Mrs. Dawn John for providing bottled water and light refreshments, respectively. Nurses Ronnie Samuel and Lexi Selman for ensuring that COVID-19 protocols were implemented. Mrs. Margaret Leacock for a job well done in decorating the hall. Lions Janil George and Sharon Williams, our timekeepers, other distinguished Lions and Leos, and any other individual whom I may have omitted, thank you for your support in staging this event. Finally, to you, our viewers, listeners, and those present here this evening, a heartfelt thank you. The Lions Club St. Vincent South appreciates your support and look forward to the staging of this annual event in years to come. Here's wishing all a happy 41st anniversary independence, safe travels, and good evening.
Thank you, Lions Simona Moses. We are still awaiting the results, so I'll ask DJ Cano just to provide us with some music in the meantime. We shouldn't be long. point that we all have been waiting for. With a total of 215.5 points, the main topic winner, representing the Georgetown Secondary School, Kinali Tashira. We'll ask Mr. Wayne Hull to assist us with our prizes and presentation. Kinali Tashara of the Georgetown Secondary School. With a total of 133 points for the student prepared topic, Marika Batiste of the Girls High School. With a total of 74 points, the impromptu speech winner is Marika Batiste of the Girls High School. This is the moment we all have been waiting for. Lion Jr. The third place winner with a total of 337 points, the Mountain View Adventist Academy, Ariana Jardine. The second place winner, the Georgetown Secondary School, Kinali Tashira. The winner of our Samsung Smart Galaxy S20 phone, and the first place winner with a total amount of 394 points. Please, why y'all presumptuous so? Please give a warm applause to Marika Batiste of the St. Vincent Girls High School. Marika would receive the Lion Michael de Freitas Challenge Trophy. It'll be going back to the Girls High School. We've asked the Honorable Excellency, the Governor General, Dame Susan Duggan, Your Excellency, to present the Lion Michael De Freitas Challenge Trophy to the Girls High School, Marika Batiste. Thank you very much, Marika. The two other finalists will also receive prizes. Can Stanislaus Gomes of St. Vincent Grammar School please come forward? We have Gia Gloucester from the Union Island Secondary School. A quick photo with everyone, please.